Hello, everyone. This is Larry Atwater. I'm in the EDUF 7116 class, and today I'm going to present to you an article review by Gay Ivy and Karen Brothers. This particular reading is called Just Plain Reading, a survey of what makes students want to read in middle school classrooms. So I'm going to talk to you guys about that. I'm going to give you some information on how they conducted their research and whatnot. So here we go. Like I said, Just Plain Reading, a survey of what makes students want to read in middle school classroom. This article was created by Gay Ivy and Karen Brothers. It is an article review by myself, Larry Atwater. The first thing that this article review has is an abstract. In this abstract is usually located in the beginning of an article, and an abstract is basically a brief summary of what is in the article. Ivy and Brothers did a great job with this, with their abstract. I really was impressed on how they constructed their abstract. Not only does it give a description of what comes within a journal, however, this abstract is translated in 6 different languages. That what made it very unique, because of how they translated this article in 6 different languages to give everybody an opportunity to read their article. Basic research. I started with basic research because I want to give you guys an understanding of what basic research is. Basic research is research aimed at generating, fundamental knowledge and theoretical understanding about basic human and other natural processes. Ivy and Brothers wanted to know what makes students want to read in middle school classroom. So they conducted a basic research and gathered their information, which is the basics for research. I also wanted to bring out that this type of research that they did was called a qualitative research. Now, what is a qualitative research and what is a qualitative researcher? As you can see, a qualitative research is research that relies on the collection of qualitative data. Qualitative data includes things such as non-numerical data, interviews, surveys, pictures, and etc. Also, well, what is a qualitative researcher? A qualitative researcher is a person who prefers to explore educational issues using qualitative data. And that's what Ivy and Brothers did in this article. They had an educational issue that they wanted to solve, and not necessarily solve, but they wanted to find more information about it, see if they can broaden or the meat or their research, or gather more information about their topic that they wanted to research in this qualitative research. Also, a qualitative research. The research study that Ivy and Brothers conducted falls in the category of qualitative research. They made observations and collected their data from interviews and surveys, and also a qualitative researcher. These are the characteristics. They became qualitative researchers because they chose to collect their data by using non-numerical data. They used surveys and individual interviews to collect their data. They surveyed over 1,700 6th grade students from 2 sections across the United States. The flow chart. In our textbook, it gives us an idea of what a flow chart looks like and the components of a flow chart. And as you can see here in the flow chart that I have given you on this PowerPoint, it shows that a research topic, that's the first thing that you would try to conduct or build, is a research topic. And that's a broad subject matter area to be investigated. And their broad subject area that Ivy and Brothers did was to find out what makes children read in middle school classrooms. So that was a broad area and a broad topic that they wanted to explore more and find more information about it. And so they took that topic there. Then they came up with a research problem. And the research problem is an educational issue or problem within a broad area. So they found that the problem in this area is that they finding that middle school age adolescents or kids, what is their motivation to read in middle school classrooms? Or do they lack motivation to read in middle school classrooms? Because they know that during those ages, during that time period, in adolescent development, that most kids have a sense of a negative stigmatism on them about reading. It's very negative during that area. They also came up with a research purpose. Now, the research purpose is the objective or the statement of intent. They gave a statement and an objective. Like again, once I said earlier, their objective was to find what motivates students to read in middle school classrooms due to the negative stigmatism that is placed upon students at that age. Next is the research question. These are questions about some process, issue, or phenomenon to be explored. They didn't necessarily have a question, but they had an issue that they wanted to explore more on. And that's how they conducted their research question. And then a hypothesis. And a hypothesis is a prediction or best guess of the relation that exists among the variables being investigated. Now I want to go back just a little bit. The research question in a qualitative research, usually you will develop a question about some process or issue. Whereas in a quantitative research, the research question will be directly related to the topic, directly related to the question that you're trying to develop. So it's a little different when you talk about qualitative and quantitative research. The why. The why. Ivy and Brothers knew that there was negative stigmatism placed on middle school students' attitude and resistance towards reading. Their purpose was to have students generate some light on some of the features of middle school reading instruction that promoted their engagement with reading. And they wanted to find out more about it, explore this topic a little more. They have read several other research articles that dealt with this same arena. However, they wanted to expand more. They wasn't looking to solve a problem or prove anything. They just wanted to expand on what knowledge or information that's already out there. So they went on ahead and did a qualitative search to find out more information about this particular topic here that they chose. Using their observation of the matter, Ivy and Brothers developed what is called in research a grounded theory. This term means a qualitative approach to generating and developing a theory from the data that research collects. Okay, a grounded theory, once again, means an approach to generating and developing a theory from the data that the researchers collects already. Okay. Ivy and Brothers in this study took the position that the tension between middle school students and school reading can be mainly attributed to the mismatch between what students need and the instruction they likely receive, rather than to fixed characteristics that defines others. They found 3 topics that were found that maybe contribute to 6th graders' negative motivation to read. One of those correlation or topics was that typical reading requirements or demands rarely take into consideration the development and personal differences between students, meaning that they felt like the reading requirements that their school offers in the public school system or private sector, the curriculum does not add or interest to students much. Therefore, they have no interest or take no interest into the books that they are required to read. because it does not relate to them or their individual interests. 2, mismatch between what students want to learn and the content requirements of school, particularly the ones governed by district or state mandated standards. And what that is saying that there is a mismatch. Students may want to learn more about a particular topic that deals on a middle school level mindset, whereas the state mandated schools or the curriculum may want to take you into informational text like news information or politics or whatever, and these children are not ready for that, or they're not looking to read information like that because they consider it to be boring. But for the curriculum purposes, as we are into the Common Core standards, the GPS Common Core standards, they may want you to learn or be more informed about those particular areas like politics and so forth, what's going around the world. And that's not what these children want to learn. So that creates a mismatch into what these children want to know and want to read about or show an interest in. Number 3, it may not be able to unite school reading and writing with their out of school reading and writing. What is that saying is that these kids not saying they don't read. When they go home, they do read. However, what they read at home is different from what they may read in school. And their purpose for reading what they read at home is totally different for their purpose and what they're reading in school. At home, they may be reading to learn more about something that interests them, maybe animals. Like you may have an individual who's interested in dogs or who may be interested in reptiles and whatnot. So they will read information related to that particular topic or whatever. Excuse me. Whereas in school, they may be required to read Shakespeare, okay, or the Holocaust. And those are not interesting things that they may want to know about or may want to read about. So therefore, in school, they will read the text about the Holocaust, but they will read it to answer questions, just skimming to find information to answer certain questions. Where at home, when they read about information that requires them, that's pertaining to what their interest is, it's like reptiles or dogs or cats or whatever, they're going to read for knowledge, to learn, they go relate to that subject, and they go hold all the ends. So they will learn to gain more information about something that they're interested in. Qualitative research method. An ethnograph, a form of qualitative research focused on discovering and describing the culture of a group of people. This word literally means writing about people. I chose to identify this particular word or vocabulary word because this is what these two researchers did. This is a form of qualitative research that focuses on discovering and describing the culture of a group of people. What is the culture? Sixth graders, and how they read. What is their motivation to read? Grounded theory. I talked about that earlier. A grounded theory is a form of qualitative approach to generating and developing a theory from the data that the research collects. Okay, they gathered a lot of information from the surveys and interviews, and that was a form of qualitative approach. By them generating this information, this data, they use that to develop a theory. And from that theory and the data they collected. Qualitative research method. Ivan Brothers used an inductive approach to generate their theories and explanation of why middle school adolescents, specifically sixth graders, have a hard time showing interest in reading materials in the curriculum as opposed to outside reading. They utilize the data they collected to generate their theories for this occurrence. This approach is called a grounded theory approach. I just gave you a little more information, a little more in depth about grounded theory and their qualitative research method that they use. Their rationale. Their rationale encompass their data collection. Now, with their data collection, Ivan Brothers used a student survey. They also use interview. But let's focus on the student survey at this point. In the survey, they noticed that previous student studies, Ivan Brothers used a student survey. They also noticed that previous studies have examined students' experiences and motivation in specific curriculum established by a teacher or a researcher. So what they're saying is that they noticed that the previous research or the previous information that's out there on this particular topic is there and it's plentiful. However, the research was kind of controlled, and it was controlled by the teacher or the researcher, the person who's doing the research. They identified two distinctive characteristics that were different from the previous studies. This is what makes their research a little different from the others. The two things that they found different, let's talk about that. They wanted their research to be different from the previous study. And so the two characteristics that they chose or that they found was that first, they wondered what would they learn from a larger, diverse sample of students from a wider and more varied range of reading and language arts classrooms. They wanted to know if they had a bigger audience, a larger audience, and a different classroom settings from across the United States. They didn't want a classroom to look the same, so they took different classrooms from high, medium, and low classroom settings, and they wanted to know what the results would be. Secondly, they wanted to highlight the student voice. They wanted to know from the student, what did the student feel? What did the students say? What were they thinking? They wanted to understand the mindset of that student, not just focus on the particular process or the program that the teacher or the researcher implemented to do their research. Methods. This right here talks about a little bit about the background information of the researcher. Like I said, Gay Ivy and Karen Brothers were the two researchers. Ms. Ivy was an assistant professor at the time of this research. Sorry about that. It's supposed to be research. They both were teacher of Title I. She was a teacher of Title I reading class for grades 6 through 8 and public middle school students. Karen Brothers was also an assistant professor at the time. She's taught in elementary and middle school as a librarian and as a middle school English teacher. The data. The two researchers administered a survey to 1,765 sixth grade students in 23 schools. The research survey included open-ended response items and short answer items with a checklist of items and followed up with interviews. They interviewed 16 girls and 15 boys, all from 3 diverse classrooms. The surveys were conducted in 2 settings, urban area in the northwestern United States and a rural area in the mid-Atlantic. They conducted surveys in 23 schools with 74 teacher volunteers and 109 classrooms. 49% of the students were female, and 51% of the students were male. 64% of the students were from schools which 0 to 25% were eligible for free school lunches. 31% of the students were from school which 26 to 50% were eligible for free school lunches. And 5% were from schools in which 51 to 100% of all students were eligible for free school lunches. The teacher reports on the student population. 71% were European Americans, 12% of African Americans, 7% Hispanic Americans, 7% Asian Americans, and 3% was other ethnicity. The teacher also reported performance ability by classroom. That means that 44% were mixed ability pertaining to the classroom, 29% were from average ability, 10% were from high ability classrooms, 10% were from also low ability classroom, and 7% were from other kinds of classrooms, such as EIP classrooms, small group classrooms, and so forth. The interviews. They conducted interviews with 31 students from 3 different classrooms in different schools. All interviews were audio taped and transcribed. The interviews, however, 10 students from Kensington Middle School, total student population was 685 students. 36% of them received free and reduced cost lunch. They interviewed 8 students from Stenway Middle School. This school has a total of 830 students, with 18% of the students receiving free and reduced cost lunch. And then they also interviewed 13 students from Lakeside Middle School, totaling 1,269 students, and 5% of the students received free and reduced cost lunch at that school. Limitations. Their research did have some limitations to it. Although they surveyed a high population of students in a variety of settings and school populations that represent a wide range of social, economic, cultural, and instructional experience, but were limited to schools, teachers, and students who were willing to participate within the designated area. So they did interview, they sent out a bunch of interviews to a bunch of schools and a bunch of teachers and students. However, they could only conduct a lot of their research based off of who was willing to agree to participate in this research study. So their research was limited to that as well, including the culture, socioeconomical status, and instructional experience. The results: Ivy and Brothers find their research that students tend to read more books they find interesting to them. Students have a hard time reading in school because most of the material that is available to them or required for them to read are not their choice of interest. Students read at home differently because their motivation is different. However, Ivy and Brothers found in their research that students seem more interested in the conditions that will help them learn and grow from their reading rather than about motivation to read in general, which is interesting. They was more focused on the conditions, on what makes them motivated to read, than rather the actual context of what they're reading, which I find interesting too in this study. That concludes my article review of this topic, this article, Just Plain Reading, a survey of what makes students want to read in middle school classrooms. If there are any questions, just answer the questions, comments at the bottom. Thank you. Once again, thank you very much.